Right, so we were studying about the regulatory requirements and the regulatory environment, and we had spoken of SCRA, right? In this chapter and in this video series, we'll speak a little on RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, and the role it plays in the regulatory environment. Before I go a little further, I'll just take you a little through the history. Now, somewhere in April 2007, so let me do this in a chronological order. April of 2007, RBI came with a directive which was to monitor the OTC market, right? So it was basically to monitor the OTC market. It was these were the guidelines on the swaps and the options in the OTC market, right? At the same time, they also came out that they should start looking at currency futures, because till then only forwards were existing, and that too at the bank level, right? So somewhere in April of 2008, so there was this internal note which RBI issued, which started talking of currency futures and its launch. At the same time, there was a standing committee which was developed with SEBI. So SEBI and RBI developed a standing committee which was to discuss on the currency futures market, right? So this was also undertaken in April of 2008, and they came out with certain proposals which included that there has to be coordination between SEBI RBI for the development of currency futures. Also, that what would be the eligibility criteria for exchanges to launch this. They also wanted to study the eligibility of memberships, because it was a new move which was being undertaken in the environment. At the same time, they wanted to review products and create surveillance mechanisms. So these were typically what the joint committee discussed, right? So in April of 2007, OTC market, some guidelines were issued on swaps and options, and for the first time they had to talk on currency futures. April of 2008, they started talking about currency futures launch, and SEBI RBI together set up a joint committee which spoke of a few points on coordination between SEBI RBI, eligibility, exchanges, anything which logically would follow if a new product is being launched, right? So they spoke on these issues. Finally, there was an amendment in FEMA, and I'll take that in the I'll just take that up as well. So what eventually happened was there was amendment made to FEMA, which is the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Foreign Exchange Management Act, and for the first time the definition of currency futures was issued under this act after the amendment under a separate section. So a section came which was section 5 and section 5A were introduced, which spoke of two important announcements. One was the definition of currency futures, and the other was that only Indian nationals residing in India or resident Indians to be permitted to trade on currency futures. So now these are again two important from exam viewpoint. Section 5 and Section 5A amendments were done to FEMA after the joint committee came out with their suggestions. For the first time, the definition of currency futures came under through Section 5, and through Section 5A, subsection of 5, another important announcement came that only Indian nationals residing in India or resident Indians to be permitted to trade on currency futures. So this was step 3, right? So you would recall that this is step 3, right? After this, another directive came from RBI. So another directive came from RBI, and as I said, these are all theoretical concepts, so I'm just trying to minimize your reading time by this video. And they came with few points. One was currency futures to be standardized. Right? And the other 2 points were 2 and 3 were the same as section 5 and 5A above, right? So this was another development which happened, and this is all happening around August of 2008, right? Now when we spoke of standardization, they spoke of what we already know, that USD INR pair will only be allowed. Changes have happened since then, so but please note that this is as of August 2008, USD INR to be allowed. The contract size absolutely is 1000 USD. I'm quite sure you know this by now. The third was quoted and settled in rupee. The fourth was that the maturity cycle of a contract will be 12 months. Perfect. So these were the standardization norms which were also laid by RBI in August 2008. At the same time, the last and important directive from RBI was for clearing houses, right? If banks wanted to be a clearing member. So and that's how I'll wrap up this video as well. So they also came with the 6th one, is nothing but, let's take the blue ink. Regulations for banks to be clearing members, right? So they said that there will be certain requirements. Now a minimum net worth of 500 crores. Second, the capital adequacy ratio, CAR, or also called the CRAR, has to be 10%, or the net NPAs of the bank should be less than 3%. This is all regulations for banks to be clearing members. Any bank wants to be a clearing member. So what were the rules and bylaws set for that? And it should be in profits for net profits for last 3 years, right? And through all this, now through all these 6 things, if you just, you can, I would suggest you actually go and rewind the video once again, because I've shared 6 points here, and this is what would be enough from your examination viewpoint as well. And RBI felt that this whole move of currency futures naturally would lead to better price discovery, would lead to better counterparty credit risk, right? So counterparty credit risk, we've spoken about this at length, right? This would lead to standardized products and reducing transaction costs, right? So some important 3 and 4: price discovery, counterparty credit risk, standard products, and transaction costs will go down, right? So from your examination viewpoint, this would be more than enough. This video would be more than enough, but I will still suggest that do go through the book just to have another feeling of what we've just discussed, right? See you soon, and we'll be discussing the role of SEBI and the regulatory framework for exchanges in the next video.